I've been with my husband for almost 20 years, but about 3 years ago, I was strongly considering divorce, and I want to talk to you about why. So I'm going to tell you the story of the day where I thought to myself, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. My husband and I had...
Okay, that's a understandable question. In marriage therapy, couples can get stuck in cycles, and sometimes when they get stuck in cycles, they also get stuck with negative thoughts. Thoughts like, do I want to be in the marriage anymore? If she got to this point, that's going to be telling us that there are some things that happened that probably left her and her husband in what's called a disrupted or disconnected state for probably a prolonged period of time. Let's see what she says.
I had 4 kids. We both worked full-time.
4 kids.
We've been
Full-time.
together for 16 years at this point. We've been together since high school. And on paper, I have an amazing husband. He is incredibly supportive. He's kind. He's loyal. He's a great dad. He's very hands-on. He's an active participant. He's always present. Like, on paper, what else could I ask for?
Another totally valid point. Sometimes on paper, if the husband and wife look great, that doesn't necessarily mean that on an emotional level they're feeling connected. And sometimes they can invalidate themselves or dismiss the things that they're feeling because they'll say, well, that's not really true. He does this or she does that, so I shouldn't really feel this way. So they can go for longer periods of time without really expressing their true feelings.
But in reality, my experience was very similar to the experience of other women. I had this amazing husband who on paper was great, but I was incredibly frustrated and burnt out from our marriage and from motherhood.
She was stuck with unresolved feelings that she was not getting relief from. Burnt out, overwhelmed, stressed out with marriage and with motherhood. 4 children, that can be super overwhelming. And statistically, young children is one of the most stressful parts of a marriage.
Because of the demands. To so many of us is that we marry these amazing men and we have amazing relationships and then we have kids. And when we have kids, women tend to carry a disproportionate amount of the work in the home, the work of raising kids, and the mental load. And
very true, but also understandable. When a husband and wife have a child, it's natural for the woman to take over those nurturing type skills because it's more natural. The husband oftentimes doesn't know what to do and he doesn't want to make things worse, so it can establish a pattern where the husband kind of pulls back and lets the wife take over all the responsibilities. I'm not saying that's good, but it's a totally understandable thing that happens in a relationship, especially while the husband's trying to get his bearings on what his role is as a father, and the wife, the mother, seems to more naturally just dive right into that.
And that is exactly what happened to us. About 3 months after my 4th baby was born, I remember looking at my husband and saying, I need more. I need you to do more. I am exhausted. I am in charge of everyone and everything in this house. Every night when we cook dinner, you ask me what to make. Every day when you drop off the kids at daycare, you ask me what they need in their backpacks.
She's feeling some pressure. She's feeling overwhelmed. It doesn't sound like her husband is actively trying to mess with her. It sounds like he might be overwhelmed as well, and I'm guilty of this. My wife kind of takes on most of the household responsibilities, so I'll say, hey, you sleep in this morning, and I'll get the kids lunch. And then as I'm packing the lunch, I'll ask my wife, hey, what is it they eat every day again? And she kind of gets upset because her mind's saying, how does he not know this? We do this every day. So it's different things that she's carrying in her head that I'm not having to regularly think about.
I am the project manager of this home and I need you to do more. And he looked at me and he said, okay, just tell me what to do. Everyone has heard this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I said, okay, something that would make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came downstairs with the 4 kids, because I do mornings by myself, the dishwasher was emptied, the dishes were put away, and the trash was taken out. That would make my life so much easier because when I've got the 4 kids running around and the baby crying, I can't be looking for their favorite water bottle in the dishwasher. I just need to know it's clean. And he said, yeah, of course. What? Yeah, I'll do that. That's no problem.
Not a bad solution, but they missed something very important in that conversation. It doesn't sound like they fully emotionally connected before they came up with a solution. That's normal. Overwhelmed people jump to solutions very quickly, but it also doesn't really address the root cause that she's feeling overwhelmed. They're clearly misunderstanding each other, but that misunderstanding is leading to a lot of frustration, which you can really hear in her voice.
And so, of course, he does it, but then I have to remind him, and then he forgets, and then I have to remind him again. And there was this one morning where I woke up.
When people problem solve before they fully restored their emotional connection, this is exactly what happens. It's kind of like you put a Band-Aid on it and it works for a week or so, but you just naturally drift back in to the same routine. So it sounds like she's getting to the climax of that the big morning.
And I went to put something in the trash, and it was overflowing. And I went to get my son's water bottle, and it was in the dishwasher with all the other clean dishes. And I felt so disrespected and unseen and unvalued at that point in time. And I remember texting my husband being like, what happened? Like, why didn't you do this? And he said, sorry, I was running late for work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, he doesn't see me. Because what he's done has now made me late for work. And he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the impact on me. And he doesn't see how every single thing in our home happens because I ask him to do it, or because I do it myself, or because I planned and organized it. The diaper bag is full because I filled it, right? I put the wipes in there. And I felt so frustrated. And I remember thinking, what's the point? What's the point of doing this with someone else? I might as well just do it alone.
Those sound like extreme statements. Those are statements people make when they're overwhelmed and they've been stuck with something for a long period of time. She just said they have, I think it started around 4 years ago because their youngest child was 4. On the surface, that sounds ridiculous. The husband left the trash out. He didn't clean the dishes. It's like, that's kind of nice you even have a husband who does that. But in context, it makes sense. She's saying this has been building for years, and that was essentially the culminating event. So it wasn't just about the trash bag. It was about their emotional connection and undealt with tension and pressure she's felt that she hasn't had a true release from. And now she's mad at her husband and is wondering, should I just do this alone?
And it's not because my husband didn't love me or he did anything to me, and it's not because I didn't love him, but because I felt so taken advantage of in our relationship. And this dynamic, it doesn't happen by accident, right? It's not like my husband did it to me, but we've been raised in this society that tells men and women who they should be in marriages and what it looks like to be a good mom versus a good dad. And we know the bar for moms is way up here and the bar for dads is way down here.
Slightly disagree and agree. There are societal norms and messages that get sent to men and women, and the fact that she says it doesn't happen as an accident, it's not intentionally happening. This stuff naturally happens in a relationship when a couple isn't fully addressing the issues as they come. If you're having a disagreement or argument with your spouse and you don't fully resolve it or get to the root of it, you just keep recreating it over and over and over again, and then it leads to moments where your husband forgets to take out the trash and you're like, I might as well be doing this all alone. So there are societal reasons why this happens or that reinforce these patterns that this lady is describing, but it usually is not intentional.
And we fell into these norms. We fell into these roles in our family despite the fact that we never wanted to. And I'm lucky, and I say lucky because I have a partner who I know loves me and wants me to be happy and was willing and able to change. And so we did the work to figure out what equity looked like in our relationship. And I can tell you now, 3 years later, that we are happier than ever. Our kids are thriving. Our home runs like a well-oiled machine. And that took a lot of work. I want to say it took like 18 months to get there. And it was well worth it. But it is not uncommon. And so if your wife is coming to you and she's saying, I'm burnt out by the mental load and I need you to do more, she's not just saying that because she wants you to do more chores. She's saying that because truly it can hurt your relationship. It can ruin your marriage if you do not participate in an equitable way in your home. And so what does that look like? What does it look like to change these dynamics?
I think I hear what she's saying. She's saying she wants a household where they're on the same team and they're working as a united front to tackle the task of the home. Warren Farrell actually has a really good book about this. What is the book called? I'm blanking on the book, but I'll put it in the comments, where he talks about men and their mindset and the expectations that people now have for marriages versus the expectations people had like in the 50s when the men just worked and the women just raised the house or took care of the house. That's no longer the case anymore, so it can create conflict when the marital couple is trying to figure out a new way to function.
But we need to really assess in our homes what the work looks like. Because in most homes, the data supports this, women do a disproportionate amount of the work. They just do. They do more of the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the child care while also working full time. And men have more time for things like their hobbies, like golf, for example, or just working out, running a marathon, right? And so we need to have hard conversations about what our time looks like, what our labor in the home looks like, what is invisible labor. We have to talk about these things. And when we don't, the alternative is that you no longer have a marriage, or you don't have a happy one at least. And so I share this story because I don't think I'm alone in this experience, and I want people to know that there's hope, and that if you have a willing and able partner, you can change this. You can absolutely change this dynamic.
What she's saying is pretty spot on. There are a lot of women that feel this way, and there are a lot of men who don't really know how to engage in a way that's different than what they grew up in, or if they're trying to do the opposite of what they grew up in, it can be kind of messy and confusing. Her delivery at times might come across as a little strong or aggressive. What I'm hearing is a passion, that she wants husbands to know that you don't have to stay stuck like that. I think she's also saying it's not just the husband. This is a husband and wife. It takes two people to both be willing to understand each other and talk about what works in their home. What are your goals as a couple? How do you want to navigate the world in a way that brings you closer together? She's saying if you don't have these conversations, it's going to drive you further apart, like it got her, where she was about to divorce her husband, was going to separate and leave 4 young children in a broken home. And she said she didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. They knew they loved each other, and so they were willing to take the steps necessary to figure out what worked in their marriage. So overall, it's a very interesting video. I hear her passion, and she does make points that I would hope would promote discussions and conversations in your home for what fits best for your marriage. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe if you enjoyed this reaction video. Thanks.